Hello, dear students. I welcome you all on behalf of Sri Jayendra Rank Zone classes. Dear student, we are in a continuation of the chapter that is organism and population. And in some of the previous classes, we have already talked about the different abiotic factor like temperature, light, water, and the soil in detail. Now to this abiotic factor, how the organism responds, that we are going to understand under this topic, that is the response to abiotic factor. Okay. So when we talk about a response to abiotic factor, we know that abiotic conditions of many habitat may vary drastically in time. Abiotic conditions vary drastically on time. And organisms of this habitat are influenced by this fluctuating environmental condition. Okay, so obviously it is in. So what is in? It is known that abiotic conditions of many habitat fluctuate or vary drastically in time. And organism of this habitat organism of this habitat are influenced by fluctuating environmental conditions. And many species, if you know, during the course of millions of years of the existence, have evolved a relatively constant internal environment, okay, that permit all biochemical reaction and physiological functions to proceed with maximal efficiency to enhance the overall fitness of the species. Okay, so many species over a particular span of time, and that is a million of years of time, the evolution has occurred, and relatively constant internal environment that permit the biochemical and physiological functions to proceed with maximal efficiency to enhance the overall fitness of the species have been developed. And this constancy, for example, could be in terms of optimal temperature and optimal concentration of body solutes. So other organisms try to maintain the consistency of their internal environment. Okay, so it is known that the organism try to maintain the constancy of the internal environment, and which is known as homeostasis. So organisms try to maintain consistency of internal environment, that is homeostasis. Okay, despite changing external environmental condition. Changing environmental condition, and that tend to upset the what a particular its homeostasis. Okay, the environmental condition try to what a change this homeostasis, but apart from this, organism try to maintain their constancy of their internal environment, that is optimal temperature and osmotic concentration. If we take an example for this, suppose a person is able to perform his or her best when the temperature is 25 degrees Celsius. If we take example, then It is known that, suppose, if we take an example, suppose person is able to perform his or her best when temperature is 25 degrees Celsius and wishes to maintain it. So even when even when the hot and freezing cold outside, when hot or freezing cold outside, this person is trying to maintain the temperature in about 25%. So it is known that it could be achieved at home, in car while traveling, and at workplace using air conditioner in summer and heater in winter. And heater in winter. So his or her performance would be always maximal, regardless of the weather around his or him. Here, the person's homeostasis is accomplished not through the physiological but artificial means. So here, person homeostasis is maintained by not physiological but through artificial means. So this is the way, artificial ways to maintain the homeostasis. Okay. So means thus homeostasis may be maintained naturally or artificially. Thus homeostasis, if we talk, may be maintained naturally or artificially. And there appears various possibilities of responses of organism towards the fluctuating environment. So it is known that various type of responses of organism occur towards fluctuating environmental conditions are number one. So there are different ways in which the response of organism occur towards the fluctuating environment. And these responses can be of regulate, second is conform, third migrate, and fourth suspend. Okay, so this four types of we can say responses are given by different organism. So what these responses are showing, this is the diagram through which we can understand these responses. See, this is the external level of a particularly different factors, and this is the internal level of this factor. So when we talk about regulate, this particularly regulate are able to maintain homeostasis, means they maintain their osmotic concentration and temperature condition, thermoregulation and osmoregulation or homeostasis. They are at internal level, they are fixed and they do not change with the changes in the external level of the different factors. So it remains constant. Internal temperature suppose remain constant, that is the regulate, means it is able to maintain its homeostasis. But if the internal concentration of the temperature or solutes changing with the changing in the external level, then it is known as conformers. Okay, but some conformers try to regulate at a particularly level and they try to convert into regulator, then they become a partial regulator. So what they are, we are going to discuss one by one. So if we talk about the first, that is regulate, it is known that some organism like all birds and mammals and very few lower vertebrates and very few lower vertebrates and invertebrate species. So some organism like all birds and mammals, very few vertebrates and birds, they are able to maintain homeostasis by physiological as well as behavioral means. Okay, so some organism try to physiological by, if we rub our body to to particularly create a heat in our body, that is what physiological means. But if we talk about behavioral, if we want to want a heat or a temperature, then we go in the sunlight and get a light or temperature, we increase the temperature, surrounding temperature will increase, and such is the movement to the heaty areas. And when there is too much temperature, we go to the particular shade areas, then that is what behavioral mechanism. So some organisms maintain the homeostasis by the behavioral or the physiological mechanism, and which ensure thermoregulation and osmoregulation. It that ensure thermoregulation, that is constant body temperature, and osmoregulation, that is a constant osmotic concentration. So, and that ensures thermoregulation and osmoregulation. Osmoregulation is the constant osmotic concentration maintenance, and the thermoregulation is a constant body temperature maintenance. Okay, such will be achieved by this homeostasis, and such organisms are known as regulate. Now, it is known that plants do not have such mechanism, do not have such mechanism to maintain internal temperature. Okay, but birds and mammals have, vertebrate invertebrates have, but plants do not have such mechanism to maintain an internal concentration. So it is considered that evolutionary biologists believe that the success of mammals is largely due to their ability to maintain a constant body temperature and thrive whether they live in Antarctica or Sahara desert. So everywhere they live, due to this, the success of mammal is due to a homeostasis. success of animal is due to homeostasis. So they maintain constant body temperature in Antarctica as well as Sahara Desert. Okay. After this, the mechanism used by most mammals to regulate their body temperature are similar to those of the humans. So humans have a constant body temperature that is 37 degrees Celsius. Humans have constant body temperature that is 37 degrees Celsius. And that particular temperature is maintained. The evaporative cooling by profuse sweating from the body during the summer brings down the body temperature. So when the body temperature is increasing, the profuse sweating occur and this bring down the body temperature. But in winter, when the temperature of the body is much lower than the 37 degrees Celsius, we start shivering and a kind of exercise which produces heat and raises the body temperature. So such a way the humans also show the maintenance by the what a shivering or we can say by sweating they can maintain their particular homeostasis. So that is the first thing that is a regulate how this different organism carry out homeostasis. But second group is conform. Second response is conform, and it is known that majority that is 99% of animals and nearly all plants cannot maintain constant internal environment. So majority of animals, nearly all plants cannot maintain their constant internal environment. So the body temperature changes with the ambient temperature. Okay. So their body temperature changes with the surrounding temperature or environment conditions. In aquatic animal, the osmotic concentration of body fluid changes with the ambient water osmotic concentration, and this animal and plants are said simply conformers. So these animals and plants which changes their body temperature according to the surrounding temperature, then they are known as conformers. Okay, so such plant and animal are called conformers. Okay, now considering the benefit of the constant internal environment of the organism, we can say after studying the regulator and conformer, what do we find? That the maintenance of a constant internal environment of the organism, it is a beneficial one. So question might be budding in your mind that why the conformers have not evolved to become a regulators. So next question is why the conformers had not evolved to become regulators. Okay, so conformers had not evolved such mechanism like regulators. So the answer is conformers had not evolved mechanism like regulators because thermoregulation and osmoregulation thermoregulation or osmoregulation mechanism are energetically expensive energetically expensive for many organisms particularly for small animals like shrews and hummingbird. So for such organism, small animals like shrews and hummingbird, these are particularly too much energetically expensive mechanism. And we know that heat loss or heat gain is a function of surface area. Since if we talk smaller animals have large surface area to volume, have large surface area relative to volume. So they lost body heat very fast when it is cold outside. Therefore, they spend much energy, much energy to generate body heat through metabolism. So this is the main reason. Because of this, the majority heat loss can occur in the small animals. So for small animals, because of this, the heat loss and heat gain is a major energetically expensive mechanism. Because of this, the thermoregulation and osmoregulation are energetically expensive mechanism. So because of this, if we talk, this is the main reason why very small animals are rarely found in polar area. This is the main reason why very small animals are rarely found in polar regions. So thus the cost and benefit of maintaining the constant environment are taken into consideration during the cost of evolution. Okay, so because of this, it is not possible that conformers can be converted into the regulators. But some species, it is known that some species have evolved the ability to regulate, but only over a limited range of environmental conditions. So same species have evolved the ability to regulate, but only over a limited range of environmental condition, beyond which they simply conform, and they are known as is partial or limited regulators. Okay, so some species have evolved the ability to regulate, but only over a limited range of environment. Up to limited extent, they can be regulated. They cannot be completely regulated. So such some species have evolved mechanism. Otherwise, they generally act as a simply conform. So these are known as partial or limited regulation. Okay, so this is what about the what a particular conform. Now, apart from this regulate and conform organism follow to other alternative under localized or short duration stressful external conditions, and they are migrate and suspend. So next third response is migrate. And in migrate, it is known that organism move temporarily away from the stressful habitat to a more hospitable area. Okay, so in migrate, the organism move away temporarily from the from the stressful habitat to more hospitable area and return when stressful period is over. Okay, so organism move away temporarily, they move to the another area where which is a more hospitable or more proper, where the stressful conditions are not there. So it will temporarily move to the favorable area, and when the stressful conditions are over in their original habitat, they will come back. Okay, so many animals, particularly birds, if we take example, specifically birds during winter take take long distance migrations to move hospitable area. And in that, if we take an example of this particular bird, it is known that every winter Colorado National Park, which is located at Bharatpur in Rajasthan, hosts thousands of migratory birds. Thousands of migratory birds coming from Siberia, coming from Siberia and other extremely cold northern regions. Okay, so that Bharatpur is host thousands of migratory birds. Okay, so that is the example of the migration. Now, if we talk about the fourth response, then fourth response is suspend. And if we talk about suspend, it is a stage in life cycle. Okay, suspend. It is defined that it is a stage in life cycle where organism changes its developmental, physiological, and biochemical behavior and biochemical behavior to pass through unfavorable condition. Okay, so it is a stage in life cycle where organism changes its developmental, physiological, and biochemical behavior to pass this unfavorable condition. And it is known that different organisms produce a different type of perinating structure. Perinating structure means the structure which has helped them to pass the adverse or unfavorable conditions. So if we talk about perinating structure, there are thick walled spores. These are formed in bacteria, fungi, and algae to overcome the unfavorable conditions. So this is the one of the perinating structure. Apart from this, higher plant produce, it is known that higher plant produce dormant structure like seeds and other vegetative propagules. Okay, as a means to overcome unfavorable condition. And this seed like structure germinate and produce a new organism when the conditions and favorable. So these are the perinating structures which help to overcome unfavorable conditions. Okay, some organism avoid stress by escaping in time. It is known that some organism avoid stress by escaping in time. And for this, if we take example, for example, bear escape in time during winter, And this bear, when escape in time during winter, it is known as hibernation. That is winter sleep. So winter sleep or hibernation is carried out by this bear. Whereas another example of it, if we talk, that is estivation. So if we talk about estivation is summer sleep, and here it escape in time during summer. It is a escape in time during summer. Means during escape in time they lower down their metabolic activities and they simply do not perform any activities and they sleep, or they particularly hide. So that is known as summer sleep, and that is escape in time during summer. And if we take an example of the estivation going organism, then they are snail and fish. Apart from this, the another thing is seen, that is a diapause. And diapause is considered as a suspended development. It is a stage of suspended development. And here it is known that diapause found in zooplankton species in lake and pond. Okay, here this particular diapause is seen. So this is all the different ways of responses to the abiotic factor and to survive in the abiotic factor. I hope you understood well. That is all about the responses to the abiotic factor. Okay, thank you everyone.